Today I'm going to be taking apart my rabbit colony and building a completely new one. In the rabbit side of our barn, we have, there's like a pallet wall and then the goats are over there. In the rabbit side though, we have our big square colony that we have most of our breeding does and our breeding buck in, as well as all the babies who are not yet out on pasture. And then over here we have two grow out pens or just other pens. This one's kind of small, this one's very long, and Elodie, who was supposed to be pregnant but actually isn't, is in the long colony. Then turning this way, we have just all this junk that I need to kind of clean up. So when we originally we first built these two pens, and that was going to be our only colony for our one buck and doe. And when we built that, we still had rabbits in cages all in here, so we had to make sure we had enough room for the cages. And then we built this as well, and then moved all the rabbits into here, and that was kind of empty and used for other stuff. And then we still had cages over here though, and then we eventually moved all the cages out over here. Well, it was kind of not like this, but outside of the barn. So now we have a huge empty space that isn't being used for anything, and I have figured out that if we take apart this colony and these colonies and use all the materials from these colonies that we already have, all the T-posts and the wire and the wood and all that stuff, I will be able to build a bigger rabbit colony in the barn and rabbit-proof it just right and make it good without having to buy any more materials. So we'll just be shuffling some materials around to making our colony even bigger and letting the rabbits be able to dig. So right now when you walk into the rabbit colony, there is the pallet door, and you walk in, there's a little narrow thing which you can fit the wheelbarrow through, and I really like that because you can, scoop it out over here and then move the wheelbarrow and scoop it out so you don't have to, carry it over there. And then we have this open space. So, but in this new colony, I'm going to have a wire wall from like this T-post across to that way. So we'll have a wall here, and then we'll be able to we have like, some barrels or whatever. And then if the goats accidentally escape into here, it's not right into the colony, it's in like a little walkway area. And we'll be able to get the wheelbarrow right up to the door so that we can easily scoop stuff into it to clean it out when we need to. And then on the other side of this completely wire wall, we will have this whole area be colony. It'll be so big, we will have more possibility of more does. If we want to keep kits because they're good, we can. And if we want to keep babies in here for longer, if we need to keep them in for longer because we don't have enough room in the pasture, we can, because right now the colony is small enough that we need to take babies out at a certain age so that it doesn't get overcrowded. And also, we're going to line the floor with wire or plywood or something so that they can dig in the middle but can't dig out. And so I'm going to start getting to work, but I'm going to explain more of why I'm deciding to do this and all that later after I finish, but for now we have to put you guys in cages. So we have these two hutches that we used to have our Angora rabbits in, but now all of our Angoras are in this one, but it's really cold, so I closed the flaps, that's why. So we're going to put, I'm not entirely sure how we're going to do it, but we're going to put all the mamas and the buck and the babies divided kind of equally in between these two hutches. They're all connected, so it's like one big thing, not three separate things. And then Elodie, who isn't, used to being with everyone, I don't want to, stick her with all these strange rabbits and not be able to watch, so she's going to be right in here. And then when we have the new colony that's super big, we will introduce everyone back in, and this will be the perfect opportunity to introduce Elodie into the colony, so I don't have to do any, special 1 week thing or play dates or all that. It'll just be new territory, new smells, new everything, and then new rabbit, and it'll be great. So we got these black barrel trash can thingies from a friend who was moving a while ago, and they are the best thing I have found for moving rabbits. We can put, pack a ton of rabbits, maybe like 3 or 4 or 5, depending on how old they are and their size, in here, and then lug it wherever I need to. But it's tall enough that they can't easily jump out, and you can put like a piece of plywood on top if you need, but I really like this, and this is what I'm going to be using today to move the rabbits. It's going to be kind of hard because we have a lot of rabbits in this colony, including all the babies. So let's get to it. So because I'm going to be completely taking apart and destroying our colony, the rabbits can't live in there, so they're in these old cages for now. And this is Henwin and Ivy's first time in a cage. They have only been in colonies or tractors their entire lives until this point. So in these cages, we have water and a pile of grains. I am not going to be offering any hay or any grain or food. We don't really have the bowls for that, and I'm hoping that this takes one day and then they'll be back in their colony. And if we do have to stay them overnight and I have to finish the work tomorrow, we'll probably give them more stuff, but for now, this is going to tide them over. Okay, so now all of the colony rabbits are in cages. We have our 3 current mother does, Ivy, Rinna, and Henwin, as well as some random kits, and Henwin's entire litter who is too young to be weaned. And then in this cage we have Ronwin, our buck, and Dasha and Zuzu, who are our breeders but too young to get pregnant yet, as well as the rest of the random grow-outs. So Ronwin, our buck, has been in a cage before. I think, yeah, Rinna has been in a cage before, and is that everyone? What? So Henwin, Ivy, Dasha, Zuzu, and all of the babies have never been in a cage or hutch before. They've only been in colonies, and in Henwin's case, a tractor. So that's very interesting. This is their first experience with a cage. The moms and babies have figured it out, all except for poor Ivy. She doesn't know what to do. This is your first time in a cage? It's scary, huh? You can see through the floor? Yeah, I'm sorry. We'll give you a better home, and it'll be so great, and you'll be able to dig. It'll be huge. Don't worry. It's worth it. So there are 16 rabbits in this cage, 17 in this one, and then let's put Elodie in this cage, and then we'll be able to start demolishing our colony. So the timing for all of this is perfect. The youngest litter we have is 2 weeks old, maybe more like 3 weeks old, and so they're old enough to be not in a nest box anymore, and we don't have any new litters born. There is always a slight chance, however, that one of these does will give birth while they're in the cages, so I'll have to keep checking them. I really hope that doesn't happen, because changing an entire housing setup and then there being babies weird places and, moms not knowing where their litters are and all that stuff is kind of crazy, so I'm glad we were able to time it such that we don't have to deal with that. So hopefully we don't have any babies born now, and they hold off until they get to their new home. Okay, so you saw the before, and this is the after rabbit colony. So we have our wall now, and the door, and then we added wire and protection all along this open space, so now it's secure. We have wire on top of the ground, about, I think, 2 feet or 3 feet. It depends on somewhere is longer than others, but we have at least 2 feet. So our colony is finally finished. We rabbit-proofed everything, and we have bedding down, we have food and water and hay, and nest boxes set up, and I think we're ready to put the rabbits in finally. So I just put Elodie in. Let's see how she interacts with the rest of the rabbits. We don't have all of them in yet, but she's in, so we'll see. So now all the rabbits are in and everyone is doing good. I began building our new colony on Tuesday morning, and I worked on it all day Tuesday, only stopping for food and bathroom breaks and stuff like that. And I got to bed Tuesday night at 3. I stayed up very, very late working on this. By that point, I was not able to focus properly, and that was the point where I was making sure I was rabbit-proofing everything properly, and I felt like I needed to be more focused and present and not super, super tired, so I could make sure everything was properly safe for the rabbits so they couldn't escape. I didn't want to accidentally miss something and have something go wrong. So I slept for 4 hours and then woke up at 7 to do animal chores and then continue. Then I finished around, I think it was 9 or 10, and you just saw we put the rabbits in. It was really nice, and then after watching them for a little bit to make sure they didn't escape or kill each other for some weird reason, I went right to bed at around 12, and I just now woke up at 6. Well, I haven't been checking on them, all the time because I've been asleep all this time. And there are two very important things that are different from last time we were here in the colony. The first one is, look, they've started digging. So on this side we have our wire, and then we have a board right here, and then we have wire over here, and they dug. You can see the wire is just here. And then this way we have the wall, and then lots of wire, and that's still kind of over here-ish. So, but we have a hole starting to be dug. Isn't that great? I'm not entirely sure who did it, but I think it's Rina. I'll tell you why in a minute, but look at that hole. It goes pretty deep too, but I was feeling back there, and I think there might be, they hit a rock and weren't able to go further, and so that's why events happened like they did. But I'd say it goes to about, right here in depth, so from there to there, which, yeah, it's pretty good, huh? Look at that. So I'm going to continue to let that hole be there, and maybe they'll dig more in it, maybe they won't because there's rocks in the way. I don't really know what's going to happen. I'm going to keep a careful eye so that they don't escape. If they do escape, they'll probably escape over here. But I don't know. I don't really think they will. So it's always a risk, but I don't think it's a very big risk, and I'm willing to take it. And this brings me to my next big news. Rina had babies! So when I first came out this evening, I was moving this nest box around because it get kind of jostled, and I was like, oh, this is really heavy, so I looked in there, and I think there are 7 babies in here. I can tell they are Rina's babies by the fur color. It's hard to tell because it's her undercoat, so it's not as, potent. The color isn't as potent as on her outer coat, but if you look very closely, it's hard to see on camera, there's some brown, and I noticed some orange, so it's Rina. And then she had a few otter-looking babies. I mean, they could be agoutis too, but yeah. So we got this colony done in just the nick of time. They are all looking good and healthy. They look very new still. So my theory is Rina started digging that hole, but then I kind of felt like a weird rock shape back there, so I think maybe what happened is then she couldn't dig anymore because the rock was in the way, so she decided to use this nest box. But even if that's not the case, I'm super, super happy that these babies arrived and that they're all healthy and good. Now, Rina is a doe who is on my cull list because last time she had babies, she did not nurse them for a few days and I had to force her. But I have decided that this litter is going to be completely hands off in terms of assistance and helping. If she doesn't feed them, then they're going to die, and I'm not going to do anything. I'm going to check on them and hold them because that makes them very friendly, and I really do enjoy having rabbits who come up to you, and that makes butchering a lot easier. So I will continue to check on them twice a day and hold them and, make sure they're okay. And it's also become such a habit for me that I think it'd be hard for me to not check on them. But if she is not feeding them or something else is going wrong, I'm not going to intervene. I'm going to let them die on their own, or I will let her figure it out by herself. Okay. Good babies. You're so pretty. Let's lock you up. Nice and good. This also explains why Ronwin, our buck, was acting a little more interested in her than usual whenever we first introduced him into the colony. He was making advances towards her, and she was snorting at him and, making him go away. There was no fighting or anything like that. It was just her kind of snorting at him and he being close to her and sniffing around her and stuff. And I was like, I wonder why that is. But now I know. He could smell or sense somehow that she was going to give birth soon and all the hormones and stuff. So that explains it, and I'm very glad. So it's evening now, and I'm going to do the rabbit chores. I have things set up a certain way, the hay feeder with the roof and everything set up, and just to see how it works, I could very well change it because I don't like how something works, or I have an idea for how it would be better. But for now, we have our hay feeder on one pallet, and then our water bowls on the other one, and then the food kind of in the middle. And then this evening, I'm probably going to pick greens for them as well. Now, you may be wondering why we have just food in one bin all mixed together instead of our very fancy special separate feeders like we did in our old colony. And that is because we are transitioning away from grain. We are not going to feed any pellets or any grain at all. We are going to try feeding only hay and greens to our breeders as well. Our grow-outs and tractors already have that diet, but the breeders until now have been getting grain, and so we're kind of transitioning them off of grain a little bit, but I didn't, want to make it all so stressful all at once, new colony, new everything, new rabbit in here, and new diet on top of all the other stuff. So I decided to just do a little bit of grain for now, and then we can slowly transition them off, and it'll be much better that way. So eventually it'll be hay, water, and then the green tub right here.